Hello from Madison, Wisconsin, Coach.
The famous Mike Terali of Madison, Wisconsin.
Whew. Been busy this morning, man.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Did you take more pictures of yourself in selfies with people this weekend than you have your entire life combined?
Easily.
Yeah. That's what I figured. You're a good man.
Oh, man, I was all over the place. There's so many people here that are kind of finding the podcast, man. And people are, it's so funny. I feel like, somebody asked me to take a selfie and they'll be like, my buddy's not going to believe this. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to believe this.
Yeah, pretty sure he's going to believe. Yeah, exactly. Pretty sure he's going to believe you took a picture with, who the hell is that guy?
Who the hell is that guy is right.
Yeah. Who is 5 o'clock shadow guy? Yeah, well, first off, welcome aboard the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast, episode 196-ish.
Yeah, it's I think 197 maybe.
96, 197. September 10th, the day after Madison, Wisconsin, Ironman. Another race is Santa Cruz 70.3, Lake Placid 70.3, and a couple other races across the pond. But while we do have the occasional international flavor, the main course and the main meal is usually here right at the good old US of A. So congratulations to everybody who finished all the races, any races, regardless of distance. It is September, and if you've made it this far throughout the course of the year, you're kind of in that grind zone. So kudos to you. But yeah, big weekend for you. I know that Madison, you're a Wisconsin boy, born and raised, and that race holds a special place for you anyway, being that it was your first, and all things Madison, being a gigantic Badgers fan. Although I got to say, I was worried a little bit you were going to no-show and become a recluse when I checked ESPN and you guys were down 7-0 to New Mexico.
Oh, man. And they went right down the field.
Yeah. I
scored on our allegedly.
Yeah, when I got your text, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to hang back a little bit and watch the game. I was like, they're playing New Mexico. Click over, down 7-0. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's when I left.
And that's
I was like, screw it, I can't.
Yeah, and then blow up. But, busy weekend, I know, for you, being on the ground and meeting a bunch of people. And thanks for everybody who said hello to Mike. Wish I could have been there. I do love the city. I'll be there next year. It is definitely one of my favorite cities, and for sure, at least my favorite, if not my top two favorites, Ironman events to spectate, because it is. Honestly, it's. I think I gotta say, it's for the full distance. I have yet to see a more spectator friendly for the full distance, because full distance races are so logistically hard for people to get to and from. I think Louisville does a good job just because of where it is, but. And they go through the little town of LaGrange, where people kind of post up. But in Madison, there's just all these different little pockets of places you can go in Verona and on the hills. And, you really think the first 20 and last 20 are probably the only places that you really don't see too many spectators. But great place to spectate. It was Allie and I took Hayden to Chattanooga for the weekend to hang out and enjoy a little anniversary celebration. I mean, hey, let's be honest, who doesn't want to take your 2-year-old on an anniversary celebration?
I don't know.
Yeah, not anybody really. We figured, hey, if we really want to try and nail down this decision of do we want a second child or not, what better way than to take our 2-year-old on our anniversary trip? But he made a great sales pitch both directions. So just let me tell you.
Sure, he's hard to resist, man.
He
hard
is,
to turn down.
He is, but sometimes he's, you just want to hand him off to the bellhop. But yeah, so how were things for you up there? Besides being besides the event, you were the other main attraction.
I wouldn't go that far, but can I just say something? I crushed the gram this weekend. I went nuts on Instagram for me.
Yeah. You mean the old IG?
IG, yeah. I was the OG, original OG on the IG. this weekend, and I think we picked up like 7 followers, dude.
Oh, and at least one legitimate follower.
Yeah, one legit follower. Flow Wheels, Flow Cycles, Flow Cyclery.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them for sure. The great product, by the way.
Listen, man, where do you want me to start? I mean, it turned out to be a perfect weekend. We thought there was going to be some, the swim might be in jeopardy. I got down there Thursday, I think, and looked at that and went, wow, I don't see how they're going to do it here. I didn't, the swim entrance that was the old swim entrance, or the real swim entrance, was completely underwater. And it was rushing waves up into sandbags. So I was like, man, I don't know. And then I walked down a ways and I saw a landing area that I thought might be possible because it was a parking lot that just kind of was a boat landing or whatever. And it turned out it was somewhere in between. So they found a patch of grass that kind of easily sort of went into the water. And that became the swim start. And they did their ridiculous rolling start.
Yeah.
I got to say, well,
we'll stick with the positives today.
We're going to stick with the positives, except for. All right, I'm going to stick with the positives. A lot of positives. I just heard a lot of bad stuff, and it wasn't their fault because the whole ground got covered, and I'm sure there would have been more room. But the one big complaint I got, it was like they were lining up the helix, and maybe 4 or 5 wide, they had kind of a corral that went down. They had fences on both sides. So people were trying to get into their, predicted swim time area, and you just couldn't get through. So what happened is if you got a late start, you couldn't walk up to your, the time you wanted. So, I knew a guy who, my buddy, he was trying to get up in the 1:30 area or whatever, and he was just and he ended up getting in at the 2-hour time because he could literally not get through. It was Sardinesville in there, and he was
Sardinesville,
and people were, and he said it was just he didn't say it was, he just said it was silly because people were coming up, bumping him from behind, trying to push their way through, and as everybody's in wetsuits and you're trying to get through a packed house, and it just wasn't even worth it. And then. The way, they started it off and they made you kind of go through 2 buoys. That was the first sort of like aiming point, and then you turn to go up the line, and, just a lot of people were in the way, but it wasn't nearly as choppy as we thought it might be because the day before it was definitely rough. It was rough out there. What's that? The sea was angry.
The sea was angry, my friend. Old man sea was grumpy.
Yeah. It was still a current,
Yeah, but I told most of our athletes, I was like, listen, it's almost always the opposite. Almost always. If it's calm the day before,
look out.
You're kind of screwed. You're screwed the next day. If it's really choppy and gross the day before, you're probably good. And luckily,
red sky at night, sailor's delight, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure that has anything to do with the actual waves.
Something to do with them.
I think it's red sky at night to the sailor's delight, red sky in the morning to the sailor's warning.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's science, man. Throwing down
it's
science.
But no, I think that's actually the way it goes. But yeah, it was it was a busy day, and again, just everybody seemed to. It's a very, very tough course. Well, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with everybody who went out there and finished it and nailed it yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the point that I was going to maybe start with and see where we went, is that what I learned yesterday, or what I was reminded of yesterday that I always seem to forget, and I think a lot of us forget, is that doing Ironman is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to do the way that you might think you're going to do or hope you're going to do or whatever, and then anytime, because I got to thinking about this, man. It's like, this is Wisconsin. I know a lot of people around here, and I know a ton of people who get to ride the course beforehand, the bike course. So there's always this. It's a big thing. There's always weekends. We're riding the course. We're riding the course. And I think what people forget is that they're riding the course and they're not racing the course.
Yeah,
and it is
difference.
A huge difference. They're stopping, and they're talking and whatever the case is, and then all of a sudden they go out there and they try and race it when no one's, talking to them, and they can't stop and have, pizza and whatever, and they just keep riding, which is a very difficult course. And I think you even mentioned good friend of mine, Josh, he mentioned that it was a hella bumpy out there, and I think you mentioned that you weren't too crazy about the roads either.
It's
difficult.
It does. It's like, I think a lot of people, like, it is. I've had many athletes say from that on that course, and even the half, the Madison 70.3 half that they do, that a lot of times they're not sore from the actual, like, the legs. They're just sore from the roads, because some of the roads are so jarring that they're just it takes a lot to you just gotta hold on tight. You gotta engage your core, and I think a lot of athletes underestimate what that does to your body and how much it takes out of you.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because hang on, I'll be out in a minute.
Whoa, is that housekeeping?
Housekeeping stopping by.
Hey, you are past checkout probably. Tell them your mic with the Crushing Iron podcast, and they'll probably give you a checkout at 5 p.m.
They already gave me an extended. Hey, I'll be out at 1 o'clock. You're welcome. She was gracious. Yeah, that's maybe, what's the first thing people talk about on the bike course? Oh, Wisconsin's hilly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that.
This.
We know that.
We know this. This isn't breaking news.
No. They don't think about the tough roads. They don't think about the wind. They don't think about all the turns. Things like that make it really hard in the end for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just it's a tough course, and it's an honest course. And I think that's why a lot of athletes, especially some of because I was looking at some of the times and stuff. Like, I think you're really going to start to see with, we have people talk about, like, some races are traditionally judged as just being total draft fests. And while I think on occasion WTC and Ironman does a decent job trying to police it, sometimes there's just, listen, if they're gonna prioritize draft marshals over some other part of the course, they're gonna probably choose other part of the course. And while I try and really hope to believe they try to make sure that things are fair, it's still, can we always be honest? Like, it's all about sales. It's always about sales. How many people can we get to sign up? If you see faster times and things are great and people love it, you're going to get more people. But I tend to think that a lot of stronger athletes who know that they have a better chance of riding, a quote unquote fair race, are going to start picking these harder events like a Louisville or a Lake Placid or a Wisconsin or Ironman Canada, where the swim is open water. It's not, outside of Louisville downstream. It's open water. It's not mass start, but it's just big open water, 1 loop or 2 loops. There's no aided swim. May or may not be wetsuit legal. And I would love to know. I haven't heard anything to the contrary from our athletes, but it's hard to draft and hard to get in packs on races like those, because people approach hills differently, and they can go up the hills at different speeds. They can go down the hills on different speeds. And especially for athletes who are really good bike handlers, you can gain minutes and minutes and minutes on a course like Wisconsin. I know when we had Starkey on a couple months back, he was talking about how he, really, really dove into all the technical aspects of the course and every nook and cranny and crack, and where you can cut time and save time. And you can lose 7 to 15 seconds just coming out of a corner. And if you want to look at Madison's course map, that could add up to 10 minutes. And so I think if those races are going to become really popular, and it looked like it was yesterday because some of the age group times were just insane. Of some of these stronger athletes who want a good shot at a qualifying event are going to start picking these races where they feel like they're going to get their fair shake, and they're going to have honest racing. And if you are an athlete, regardless of athletic ability or experience or where you want to place or first time or 20th time, if you want an honest course, you go to Madison. Mm-hmm. And it's as honest of a course as you're going to find in the U.S., hands down, no question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bike course, and I think it's in some ways comparable to Louisville, but the swim for sure is a huge equalizer up here. It's wetsuit, but like you said, it's a big body of open water, and there is current, but it's not helpful current really, mm-hmm. But it can be a hindrance of a current, and especially because the current allegedly, I wasn't in the water, but supposedly was going the direction opposite of the long side, which is 1700 or whatever on the backside.
Yeah.
And so it just made it tough. And I think maybe a lot of times that it's also a sighting nightmare because it's, almost 2,000 yards going one way when the shoreline is way past that. And you can't really, it's just a big glob of trees that are all the same size and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that makes it tougher. And and I think it's just, you talk about this, but I think, people think of the swim as the swim, but it can take a lot out of you. And that's, actually somebody was talking, I think it was Josh actually, and he was saying that he's he's a strong cyclist, but he wanted the swim because he thinks a lot of people will get kind of gassed out there and not realize and it'll affect the next day. But swimming is like, sometimes it can really knock you down and you don't want to think, I don't know what, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You're talking about, I know what it was. You were saying about how the fatigue in your arms affects the rest of your body. That's the one thing we were talking about.
100%. It's funny you said that because when we went downstairs just to grab breakfast at our hotel in Chattanooga, and we ran into Nate, mm-hmm. One of our athletes. He was in town for a music festival, and as a good athlete, he was, he stayed up all night partying at the music, but he was up about to get his run in on the course. And
he's still young.
He is. He can do whatever the heck he wants, man. And we were talking about it. He was like, yeah, all my buddies were like, why are you swimming these, long distances? And he was like, I just do what I'm told. And, and I was like, listen, man, it's funny because it's ironic you mentioned it. But I said I read a study, research paper like maybe a year ago. And they said that cyclists, RP, so like their scale of like perceived exertion went up with arm fatigue before leg fatigue. And so meaning that when their arms got tired, their perceived level of exertion went up versus when their legs got tired, their perceived level of exertion didn't go up as much as when their arms got tired. And so when you think about, you see this with athletes, the last like 30 miles of every course, and especially when they have a rough course like you have at Wisconsin. And listen, if you're thinking about doing Wisconsin, it's not rough the whole time. There are certain stretches of highway, like there are on a lot of courses, that are just rougher than others, and that. With you go in with a swim, let's say your arms, your shoulders, your neck is fatigued coming out of the water because you just think, it's just a swim. It's not going to take much out of me, and it's open water swim, but I'm doing Louisville and Chattanooga, so I don't have to swim a lot. So who cares? And then you get in the water and you have to fight and struggle for, let's see, even if it's a generous current, Chattanooga got 45 minutes to an hour and 10 or hour and 20. Then you have open water swimmer, it could be upwards of an hour and 30, hour and 40, where you're using all these muscles and exerting these in race pace, and you're in a wetsuit, and then you hop on the bike, and then you see people. You can always tell, like the first 30, 40 miles, you see people sit up and kind of shake their arms out. Mm-hmm. You see it all the time. Every time you see an athlete sit up and shake their arms out, they are blowing in the wind. And if you want to talk about being prepared and ready to be fresh, then you have to be prepared to come out of the water, and you want it to feel like there was no swim. You want it to feel like somebody just dumped you in the water 100 yards out, you floated down, you came out, and you just have to get in the water and get out and get on your bike wet and not feel the effects of a 2.4 mile swim. That's the point. But so many people approach it to where I just got to get through the swim. Getting through the swim means you're probably having to fight. Like you're probably going to put forth a lot of effort. And that's the last thing you want to do, because you have so much effort. So yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're still trying to figure out how long does my swim need to be, or what I need to do to this, make them long. I mean, I think, one of our athletes are kind of joking about the swim I gave him this last week. It was about 4,500, and half of it was pulling. So it's not that hard, but it's upper body strength, and I want them to get out of the water feeling like they didn't even swim. So they can stay in aero, they can stay small, they don't have to sit up. And not only on a course like Wisconsin, where it's you want to have that stay tucked and stay aero, it's also windy. So the last thing you want to do is have to sit up into a headwind because your arms are tired versus your legs. And so it's a very important, very underestimated aspect of why you should do more swimming.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that, for whatever reason, just don't sink in for a long time, I think.
It doesn't sink in because people don't want them to sink in. Listen, everybody's desire to do well or desire to achieve something is basically the same, because it's a thought. But everyone's willingness to do the work that's going to get them there are all totally different. So, this is just it's applicable to every aspect of our lives. We usually hear what we want to hear, and we tell us a story that's usually the most comfortable and the easiest to get around. And so, that's not really going to me. I can get by with just 2,000. Well, sure, you can get by. But when you're struggling and you need to sit up and you need to shake your arms and your arms are tired, but your legs aren't, think about that. Think about that you're in the middle of a race and your legs feel great and your heart rate feels great, but you have to sit up because your arms are tired.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
You're losing time. You're losing time, and you don't want to be in that position. I get it. It's a long day. And thankfully, it's a really long day. But you still don't want to ever give away time if you're really trying to figure out, the best that you can do. Yeah, I think.
I can't disagree with that, man. I mean, how can you? But
because people don't want to swim for that long. I mean, it's just
yeah.
It takes a while to sink in. It only takes a while to sink in because you've got a stop plug forcing it. You don't want it to come in.
Yeah.
So it's just it does. It's people. That's the thing. People would much rather do basically anything else but swim. For whatever reason.
And I was just talking to one of our athletes earlier about the thing about the swim too is, and I think all this stuff is you get enough repetition in, and then as you get closer to the race, especially if you're first time or something like that, you're nervous and you're anxious because you can't really envision yourself doing it. But then as the mileage gets up and you start getting a better idea that hey, I just did a 5-hour training ride. Okay, this is going to be possible, or whatever the case is. And the same with swimming. And then, but to me, the key, and we just had a podcast called Relax, but it always comes back to that,
Relax.
Just relax. I mean, it's hard to relax, if, like you're saying, I mean, if you come out of the water and your neck is already stiff, it's probably because, you were tensed up in the swim, and then it just carries into the other stuff. And then the next thing you know, you're on the run and your hips are hurting. But how do you relax your hips, How do you relax your legs? I mean, you just have to do it. Because the more you focus on that sort of, oh my God, I don't know. It's just a crazy sport in that regard. I think that when you finally put them all together on race day and it just gets unbearably hard on that second loop. And, you know, you had a great talk about that on the last podcast about how, you know, your effort goes up and you're to hold the same speed, you know, and how do you get to that point? And, you know, so much of that is just the minute you start getting tense, and if that's right in the water, I just think that, you know, can really start you on a bad snowball. It
is, but you know, the event itself, like a full distance, is there are so many things can go wrong and so many things can go right. And that's why it's so great that you have a long day. You know, is that sometimes you just and that's where you got to give so much credit to athletes that are just having totally awful days. Because, I mean, if you're going to have an awful day, you know, not a whole awful day, but like you're having an awful bike, like things just aren't working out. Like I had an athlete that I worked with yesterday who great swim, and then on the bike just didn't have it. Was having trouble with nutrition, was having trouble with some knee pain, and just like things were just totally off out of nowhere. And I was just kind of sending messages to her husband and some of their friends. I was like, just tell her to keep fighting and just tell her not to quit, just to get to transition. That's all you got to do. Just get to transition. Because so many things can change in your body and in your mindset, and that you just got to make it. And because like there is, like, I think like transition 2, in my opinion, is like almost like that's not as good as the finishing line, but it is just a small inch behind it.
It's certainly in the relief category.
Because listen, like if you get to transition, and you've got like, let's say like you get there in like 10 hours, you have 7 hours to cover 26 miles. You could fast walk that.
Yeah,
you could fast walk it. So if you get to transition and you got at the 10-hour mark, you basically, that thought of like not finishing should like go away from your mind. And you feel like this total sense of relief, like no more mechanicals, no more flat tires, no more bike wrecks. I just got to like power walk in and just make like the mental grind. But this athlete, like, I mean, she struggled mightily just had one of those days, and we all have them. Sometimes you can't explain them, and then fought her way tooth and nail back to transition, and then rattled off like 17, 18 miles at a pace that like I didn't think she would even come close to running. And so, you know, you could just turn your total day around by getting there, and like you just got to keep going. And like there are so many athletes that, you know, throw in the towel because it's going to ruin their goal, or it's too hard, or they can't think about it. But like, and there's no place to hide on that Wisconsin course. Like there is no like, oh, I can just like coast. Coast downhill, but to coast downhill, guess what? You got to go up the hill first. You know, it's not like Florida or Arizona where there's like long downhills where you can just like, you know, coast and not pedal. You got to do work. And, you know, but it's just and that's also why people learn more about themselves on a day like that than they will doing anything else ever, because of what they have to go through to get to where they want to go. It's you put yourself in situations you would never, ever, ever put yourself. So you're then giving yourself the opportunity to find things out about yourself that you would never, ever find out about yourself.
Yeah, dude, I was out there late again at the 11:30, 11:45 time, and to your point, it is unbelievable the wave of emotions that goes over these people's faces. I was, you know, it's almost instant too. Like we were right at the beginning of the carpet, and you know, you run down the chute a little ways before you get to the carpet. You come around the Capitol and you kind of peel off to the left, and then you've got a little time to kind of gather yourself. But right when people were hitting the carpet, man, I was getting chills. They were just tearing up. It's like 11:45, you know, and they had no idea. That's what I mean. The Ironman is hard, man. You just have no idea until you get out there. And then you're just like, what in the world? I mean, like, speaking of emotion, you know, getting off the bike, how would you compare that emotion to when you get to that relief of that, having that second loop?
Oh,
It's like,
that's I totally agree. I think I mentioned that too. It's like that second loop feeling, like you're there because you're like the next time I come back around, I'm going down that finisher chute.
yeah,
And there is nothing
there's
better.
nothing worse than going out on that second
Yeah, no,
loop
it's
either.
true. It's so true. But it is like it's like there's so many emotions that like go through your mind and your body, and like I'm like just when I think I've got it, and like as a coach or as an athlete, like every single time you just kind of get reminded, if that's even a word. I'm making it one. You get reminded again of like just the enormity of what so much of this means, and I always kind of look at it from an athlete and a coach, because I still compete, and I'm tracking people yesterday, and you got a million different emotions, and good, and good, and then you're worried, and you don't know, and then it's great, and then you're tracking other people, and it's I think you just forget that how much is at stake. And listen, not that not finishing is like the end of the world, because it's not. But like when athletes put their whole like everything that they do, and like their whole fight goes into it. And I was watching like this one athlete I was just talking about. I was watching like one of her husband's like Facebook Live as she came through transition, and coming out T2, and then she headed out, and you can hear him, but you can also hear like her daughters cheering, like, "You got this, Mom." And then so I can't, I can't imagine the feeling that she had as a mother, but like as a coach too, that's why so much of your day is like total stress, because that like while you're tracking an athlete, like each athlete also represents like a bubble of like.
You there? Hello?
He disappeared on me.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I had to reboot Skype.
Yes,
Skype.
They probably slipped another update in on us.
You said something. I lost you when you were talking about the bubble.
Oh, if it's like this, the bubble.
You wrap yourself in a bubble of. You're talking about.
Oh, no, there's like when you're tracking an athlete, there's like. 1, 2 to up towards like 20 people sometimes that are also like wrapped up in this whole experience. Parents, spouses, kids, moms, dads, friends. They all come in to see it, and they're all like hanging on every single, split and transition, and it's like it's an emotional roller coaster all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so. That's what makes it so great. But as like a coach, that's also what makes it so stressful sometimes. Is it's just like there's so much behind it. And like when you see like a person in your tracker, you see the person, you see their journey, you see their goals, you see how hard they've worked, and then you also see like how many other people have that are there and cheering, and how much they have invested, and you just want it to all go right. And it's such a long day of an emotional roller coaster. I don't know of anything else like it.
Yeah. And I saw one of the ultimate examples of that. My buddy Mike, he made a decision. He's been doing triathlons. He's had a bad knee. He's got a really bad knee, and he's bone on bone kind of situation or something like that. But he does shorter races, and we're getting older, and he decided that the knee isn't necessarily getting any better, and he didn't know if he's maybe at some point it's going to have surgery or whatever. And he's like, I want to do an Ironman before I get too old or whatever, I lose the enthusiasm for it or whatever. So he signed up for this, and he had, I think, he ran maybe 6 times in training, and his longest run was 4 miles.
Eek. That hurts.
Yeah. And he knew exactly what he was getting into in a way, but I don't think he knew exactly what he was getting into, But he soldiered it out, man. He had a good swim and a good bike, and he had a plan of not going too hard because he knew he was going to have to find something he's never found in his life. And yeah, he made it, and I was super proud of him, man, because I mean, just to do this in a healthy state is one thing, but to have that kind of a run, I mean, like, I just can't even imagine.
Yeah, no thanks. Mike, more power to you, buddy, but yeah, I want no part of that.
Yeah, he is actually doing all right this morning. I was pretty proud of him, man.
Good.
Walking around, good attitude. He said, no, that's it, though. That's it. He said, I saw a guy in the elevator, too. He said, that's it. He's done 6 in a row here or whatever. That was the last final straw or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's very common.
Yeah, come talk to us again in a couple of weeks when you've had a chance to, go downstairs like a normal human being.
Mm-hmm. And you listen to all these inspirational podcasts we got coming up to get you back into the sport.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully this is my last one. Hopefully it's like, I either want to do another one or I want to improve, or maybe I want to get faster first and then tackle it again. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but just a great day overall. And
I was just at the awards.
I saw that. Yeah, how were some crazy good performances yesterday.
Yeah, first of all, as we know, Lindsey Corbin won the women's pro in a landslide. Yep. And secondly, the top age group male and top female age grouper are married.
Are married, yeah. I knew they were together.
And then, of course, our buddy Glenn back on the podium again.
He was back.
C26 athlete.
Yeah, back on the podium. Yeah.
I did hear that there at one of the age groups there was a discrepancy of sorts. I don't know exactly what it was, but I heard one of the guys' chips broke, and they weren't sure if he had second or fifth or what. They were just trying to figure that out like right beforehand. And I heard, now this could be wrong, but I heard they might have went by his Garmin.
Oh, I'm sure that's the only thing you can go by.
Hello, vote for Mass Start.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about that shit anymore.
Problems.
And Ken, and I was thinking about this, and listen, I know, I get it, like, ad nauseum, even though it annoys me, like, yes, the rolling starts are safer, it makes everybody feel more comfortable, and you can't always think about the people at the front end of the race, and I get it. I get why they do it. I don't like it, but I get why they do it. But the downside, and if you're not one of these people, then it won't make as much sense, and I'm thinking you won't care, but a portion of what it's lost is for the athletes that just like you give their life and their hours and hours and their dedication and motivation and their desire and the same hunger that the back of the pack people have, the front of the pack people have it too. And for some of those people, they're going after they're going after a KONA slot, or even just to get on the podium, which is a huge accomplishment. And for the most part, they don't get to cross the finish line and celebrate that immediately.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like replay in football or something. Touchdown happens.
It's this. You're going for your first PGA Tour championship, and you have the round of your life, but there's still 8 golfers left, so you got to go sit in the clubhouse.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And watch it from the TV, instead of being able to hit the final putt with the crowd there and your family, and then go ballistic. That's the part of it that gets robbed from a lot of these athletes, because they have to sit and they have to wait, and they have to click and refresh because of the rolling start. They don't know when they started and who was behind them and who was before them, because things are always changing. And I get it. Like, well, they should always be, giving their best no matter what. Yeah, I got it. And they probably are, because that's why they're there at the front end. But I do think that there's something to be said for that loss of an experience. That immediate crossing the finish line to know, I got it, I did it, instead of crossing it and finishing it, and now you have to like sit and refresh your phone for like 30 minutes. And even then you're like, but I wonder if it's done.
Yeah.
I wonder if get back again.
Well, yeah, the fast person got stuck way in the back of that line because they couldn't get up there.
And so I think that's the part that I think bothers me the most for those athletes that work so hard and to get there, they're part of it too. And I think that's the part that, like I said, we solved that in one of our other podcasts.
Yeah, we did.
Last April, Make a Wave special for that. But yeah, all in all, a great day. It was, again, we had our squad did a amazing job. I think we had the weekend, we had 2 marathon PRs, 3 or 4 first-time Ironman, which is always like something crazy special to track online. 70.3 PRs, and then we had Glenn. We had Glenn on the podium in Wisconsin, and we had Michael Sharp on the podium in Santa Cruz, 70.3. But yeah, great day all in all, and again, congrats to everybody who, not just who like did a huge event, but I had an athlete that I work with that went and did Lake Placid 70.3, and we knew it wasn't going to be a PR race just because of how hard that course was, but something I think that fails to be said and mentioned and pointed out sometimes is that, when she text messaged me, obviously months and months and months ago, saying, I'm terrible at hills, I'm terrible at hills, I'm terrible at hills. And she's like, but my husband gets to pick like where I do some of my races because that's like their agreement, which I think is great. I think a lot of couples have that kind of arrangement. Like, yes, you can go, but we got to go somewhere cool. Like, I'll be hard pressed to find any spouses are going to pick Muncie. Like, oh, sweet, yeah, let's go visit Ball State in the Golden Corral, and we'll call it a weekend. But so he wanted to go to Lake Placid.
They've got Olive Garden.
They do have an Olive Garden in downtown Anderson. But I guess he had picked Lake Placid Center for there because, if you've ever been there, seen pictures, it's just, it's raw beauty, and it is challenging. And she was like, but I'm terrible at hills. Do you think I can do it? And I said, let's do it. And so there's so many people who do these races, and it's not about, it's not always about getting on the podium or getting a PR or doing this or making it your first time. Sometimes it's just like doing something that you're willfully and you acknowledge like scares you. Instead of taking like the easy way out and picking another flat course with a downstream swim and a pancake flat bike, and she was like, I'm going to take on, open water swim, a super hard bike course in the run, because it's not about the time always. It doesn't always have to be. It can be about challenging yourself and trying to learn about yourself and finding confidence in being afraid. And obviously, afraid is a loose term because there's nothing to really be afraid about. But in just challenging yourself, because if you're afraid of it or you're even somewhat scared of it, and obviously it's not legitimately dangerous, you should probably do it,
right?
Because you're going to learn something very invaluable about yourself.
Yeah, and I learned something about myself and us actually. As you said, a few people grabbed me, wanted a little selfie or whatever, and.
Any ladies between 45 and 60?
Oh, yeah. One.
Oh, right.
I think she was married. My husband won't believe this. I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, so I had the all-access wristband. Got me in a lot of places. Went up to the top of Monona Terrace because I wanted to get an overhead shot of the long stream of single-file swimmers. It's always a captivating image, and but I went to their VIP area up there. I was like, I walked up to the door, and he said, "Excuse me, where are you going?" I said, "I got the all access band." Pointed to it, and he goes, "Who are you with? Facebook,
Ooh.
The Facebook crew, or whatever?" I said, "Crushing Iron." He goes, "Yeah, you can't come in here." He said, but you can go over there. And they had like a little, I guess it was local Madison Sports Authority area. But I was like, oh, this would be great. And I walk over there, and they moved the start of the swim down behind a tree, so I couldn't even get a good shot over there.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. So, maybe one day, I run around about, I don't know, probably 20 miles. I walk around that day, shooting sights and sounds of Madison and the whole Ironman race and the emotion. And we put together these tribute videos promoting Ironman all year round and talk about them all the time. Maybe one day we'll get access to that suite.
Who are you at? Crushing Iron? Yeah, you can't come in. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
I said, you might want to listen to the podcast, young man.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was other times when that thing got me in places where I was kind of, I don't want to be, disrupting anything, but sometimes there's a good shot over there. I was surprised that I was right on the other side of the swim arch. I think before it started. I mean, it was like the best spot ever. And it was awesome watching those people, I was bummed because the Canon, I was going live down there with the Facebook Live thing, and he said 2 minutes, and I was waiting for a countdown, because they usually do that, don't they? 5, 4, whatever. And he said, go, and the Canon went off, and I was late, but I was right there for the start, and it was kind of cool to watch. It was different, It was a different swim start than I had really kind of witnessed a little bit. But, yeah.
It's all about it, so... Well, hey, man, get out of that room before they kick you out.
Yeah.
And safe travels back to Beloit. Get back to your training for Ironman Louisville. We got Ironman Chattanooga coming up in a few weeks. And then Louisville and KONA World Championships in October. So we'll come back to you on Thursday and have a good week. And if you want more information on the podcast in general or all the things that we do, crushingiron.com. Has information on coaching and training packages, our swim analysis, gear, the blog. Check it out. And if you have any questions for Mike, you can hit him up at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions or comments from me, you can hit me up at c26coach@gmail.com.
That sounds good. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who came up and said, hey, if you we have a closed Facebook group. That's where we meet a lot of the people, and that's by searching Crushing Iron Group in Facebook. You can find us, and we'll let you in there. And I look forward to seeing a lot more of you in Chattanooga. As I will put together more video stuff from this weekend, and be posting that on Crushing Iron YouTube page and the website and in the group. So keep an eye out for that. Congratulations to everybody that finished a very tough day yesterday. And keep pushing on. We will.
That's right. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right. Take it easy, buddy.
See you, dude.